Hi, welcome back, modelers. So today I'm going to go over a little bit of a discovery that I have where I was going through the hobby shop and I came upon this product, the Detail Shine Enhancer, and I was like, this could be very interesting. But not exactly the cheapest thing in the world, 10 bucks, but I'm like, but if it does the job, it's worth every penny. So it's modeling achieve extra shine on any object. Any object. So if it can do that, let's see, extra shine to certain objects. It can be used on models, dioramas, blah, blah, blah. Give chromatic richness to all your colors and effects, making your model look ultra realistic without varnishing. Take your model to the next level. The tube contains better. So man, if it can live up to its claim, wow, that's amazing. So the first thing that I did is I applied it to some clear parts. And just to kind of show you, obviously this is not a clear part, but just want to show you how it doesn't do jack to like a canopy, but it's just a wax. You can see just something there, probably something you can get somewhere else in the hardware store for probably 10 times this for a third the price. But you just wipe it in. Okay, obviously that is not what we want yet, but if we remove so doesn't seem to do much of anything. In fact, do I even have? Let's grab this for the heck of it. So same thing if we go into this horrible paint mule. Sorry for the bouncing. Just got to be a little bit vigorous with this apparently. All right. So in short, maybe it cleaned up some, but not really doing much of anything. So what I did is I went online to the AK's website to try to get more information on like what it is, what it can do, what it doesn't do, and so it said, you can apply it and it will, make your paint more shiny. So here's a paint mule. If I put it on this matte paint and wipe it away, does it give it more shine? Sure. But if I wanted that shine, I could just do double hot or quadruple hot or whatever steel wool and get some, buffing to it. That would work. Or just gloss paint. So I don't know. This could do something well when it comes to like car finishes or something when we're trying to mail those. That, since I don't do a whole lot of car building, I don't know. I'll have to experiment with that later. But I was looking further on with their instructions, and one thing that they said is that it can be used for chipping effects. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Amazing. That mind-blowing eureka at that point. But the instructions on it were not really helpful. Obviously, in Spanish, translating over to English, and not really much help. So try to interpret as best as I could what you're supposed to do with it, and I imagine it's just like hairspray, right? You have just your layers of, so in most our case, something aluminum, and then we would go and we would put on different layers on top of that, right? But have this in between so it's easy to chip off. So I did a lot of experiments on this, and this is where I was like, okay, we've got something here. This is one little test sample that I was working on with a few things. And the cool thing about it is there's some level of control that you have, and you don't have to get it wet. You don't have to figure out the right consistency of wetting. So there are some benefits to doing with it. But when you're putting this on, if you have it be, you know, a really thin layer, then it's going to be just a bit of scratches, not a whole lot of anything coming off. But the other thing you can do is you can glop it on, and yeah, paint's not going to stick when you just try to rub the paint. It's going to come right off. So I've done some more experiments with it, and I like the results. So with this, here's some chipping effects that was done. So I just did you know, cheap aluminum Vallejo paint. Well, not necessarily cheap, but just aluminum paint just to prove the idea. And I put that on, and then with that, I actually just use this Infinity 800 grit and just kind of scratched at it in different ways that, you know, it should be scratching with airflow or whatever, people walking on it. And I like that effect. It looks pretty cool. So I wanted to look at some other things. Notably, if I use, let me grab a fresh one, but if I grab like a toothpick to this, if you go with the toothpick, then you can kind of create scratches. I don't know if this is going to actually scratch. Well, it still will. I found once the paint cures, it's going to be a little bit harder. But you can see you can still get scratches. You can get to it. Now, the other thing that I need to look at, whether or not the layer of the wax is doing anything. I think it's helping, but I've got this paint mule that I've been experimenting with as well. So on this side, I didn't put any of the wax stuff, and you could still scratch it away. It's harder to do so, but you could still do it. And if you want to do certain effects where this is just looking like very much a big chip off, you could do something like that with just a thicker piece of wax. So you could do that if you want something where it's big flakes coming off of it. But what I like is to just going in and having just a thin layer. And then what I've got on here is the different like materials to take off the paint. So what I did in kind of here and here is getting into steel wool. And I've got a couple of different sizes for this steel wool, so getting into the really fine. And got some good effects to it. It's getting into more of an abrasion removal, not just the paint just chipping off and coming off. So if it's rust and it's just no longer losing its grip and it's flying off, you know, hairspray, or maybe still using this but more thicker wax would be what you want. But if the paint's coming off with abrasion, I think this is a really good effect. And then off on here, I'm doing more of using just straight up toothpick to just kind of chip at certain areas on it. And just like anything when you're getting into chipping, there's some practice and experimentation that needs to be done. But we come over to here, and you can see this is my fine steel wool. I don't know if it's like, if it qualifies it as like double or just single zero. I don't know what the rating is. It didn't have it on the packaging. But the finer steel wool, and then being able to take the steel wool and just kind of doing this gets it more of an abrasion. So that might be a pretty good effect for certain wear and tear for armor, for doing some of the chipping on there. You can see, if you rub it in, you can get in and tone it into being just the right type of abrasion. Let me see if I can get this. I don't know why my thing is not wanting to focus today, but you can fine tune it a little bit so you're just getting abrasion and maybe wearing down just to the lower level of the paint. So you see how this just kind of just rubs right off. And you can use a spinning motion, or with airflow, or maybe as things are moving around, mechanized kind of thing, and doing with that. So some things that I need to figure out, I did put in a layer of this in between just to make sure I'm not going through all the way through the aluminum paint coat down to where it's bare plastic. Whether that's 100% needed, I'm not sure, but that is my safety measure that I'm working with. I have been able to, when I wasn't using it and I was using the toothpick, sometimes maybe I need to use a better primer or something, but it was able to scratch right all the way through and I'm right down to bare plastic. Not ideal. We don't want that. So that's a few things that I'm looking at. But practicing a bit, I like certain levels like this where we're getting into more abrasion that's coming off rather than a full-on big chip clump that sometimes can happen with hairspray. What's my takeaway? Is this far superior to using hairspray chipping? I don't know. Jury's still out on that. Is this something where it's another use and it has its certain effects for certain things? You bet. Is it worth the money? I don't know. The thing was $10 at the store for a tube. I mean, there's probably some other way that you can have, there's some other kind of waxy product that does exactly the same thing, probably even better, to be honest. Just this is specific for modeling, and like I said, I found it at the store and went, huh, I like my things shiny. Let's do that. But yeah, lastly, we've got here, this is just another experiment. So below it I had Alclad, and I was just experimenting with using, you know, steel wool, and I kind of like the effect. So either I'm going back and forth between steel wool to remove it. Sometimes you'll get bigger scratches and all that, versus getting into this one that shout out to Sprue Brothers for giving me. You know, I already have some Infinities. They're an amazing product, but something with this 800 or maybe 1,000 grit, somewhere in that range, to just kind of slough off slowly, and so you have that gradual loss rather than a full-on chip coming off. Because I can see sometimes it's easy to do hairspray where it's just like that. But yeah, this might be easier. I don't know. What I'd like you guys to do, try this out. See what you guys get for some of your results. And if you want to do some experimenting, if you want also me to try out a few different things, we can go in and I can try all your suggestions. We could look at this because this has a lot of potential. Some of the effects that I got on this wing portion, my extra from Eduard. So I really like these. So, like I said, if you have any questions, suggestions, if you think you hate the result and so much better than there, just let the debate go into the comments. Let me know what you think about this. Is it something that I should be using on my next project where I'm getting into a 32 scale Tamiya Spitfire here? And should I use it on that, or would that be a waste of probably about $150 in modeling product? So let me know, and until next time.